which are important enough for us to discuss. And I want to begin by informing you that the position in terms of the government of Guyana has not changed. The position remains that the government is holding office illegally. The president and his cabinet are refusing to resign in accordance with Article 106(6) of the Constitution, consequent upon the passing of a no confidence motion. The government legitimate tenure under the Constitution has expired, and therefore the government continues to hold on to office illegally. The time for the renewal of its life, or granting an extension rather, to its life by the Parliament, that period has also expired, because as you know, that period would have been 3 months after the no confidence motion would have been passed. Whichever permutation you may wish to engage, that 3 months period have expired. So from whatever perspective you may wish to view the situation, the conclusion that one cannot dispute will be arrived at is that the government of Guyana is extra-constitutional. It has outlived its constitutional tenure, and it is holding office without constitutional authority. As I said on a previous occasion, or on many previous occasions rather, no other country in the world has ever gone through this debacle, and Guyana is the first. I pointed out at other fora that I spoke that even though Mr. Fobbs Burnham and Mr. Desmond Hoyt may have rigged elections and may have rigged many elections, neither of these two former presidents ever allowed their constitutional tenure of their government to have expired. Mr. David Granger bears that ignominy of being the only president in the world to allow his government's life to come to an end without seeking an extension. And the government seemed to be oblivious to this reality. They seem to be unconcerned that they are an illegal government, that every decision that they make is an illegal one, that every dollar they spend is an illegal spending, every appointment they make is illegal, every document that they sign, they are not authorized to do that, every contract that they enter to is being done without lawful authority. So you have in Guyana a government that is not recognized by the laws of the country and not recognized by the Constitution, a government whose life has expired. Notwithstanding, the President has issued a proclamation, and in that proclamation has fixed the date for elections to be March the 2nd, 2020. So March the 2nd, 2020 will be the elections. So you have October month, November, December, January, February, March. You have 6 months that this government is prepared to rule the country illegally. 6 months where the government cannot make a legal decision. 6 months where the government cannot spend a lawful dollar or lawfully spend a dollar. 6 months where no appointments can be made. 6 months where no lawful contract can be entered into. I cannot conceive as a lawyer how the government will survive this period. And as I said on many other occasions, there will come a time when legal norm and normalcy will be returned to Guyana, and persons will have to account for the monies spent during this period. Persons will have to account for decisions made during this period. Persons will have to account for contracts entered into during this period. Because we have been on record repeatedly warning and cautioning against going ahead with these transactions. And every day you open the papers or you look at the news, you see the government continues to function as if everything is normal. And we have 6 more months to go. And there will be a time when someone will have to answer, or some grouping of people will have to answer for this period. It will not go unaccounted. It will not go without some kind of investigation being done and appropriate sanctions levied for the wrongs committed during this period. So, that being said, I move on. So the president has decided to fix the date for elections as March the 2nd, 2020, but has not yet dissolved the parliament. Elections, the dissolution of parliament is always closely related to elections, because the parliament has to be dissolved and the RDCs in the country, the regional democratic councils, have to be dissolved, because the elections that essentially that we are going to, which according to the president will take place on March the 2nd, 2020, would be elections for persons to sit in the parliament and persons to sit in the RDCs. That is why it is called regional and national elections. It is elections of persons to the National Assembly, and that's called as the national elections, as well as the elections of persons to the Regional Democratic Council, and that is why it is called regional elections. So these bodies necessarily have to be dissolved. You know, once you are part of an organization and that organization has to hold its annual general meeting and elect office bearers, during that meeting there is a time when there is a declaration made that all office bearers, their tenure come to an end, and you dissolve the last executive committee, and then you open the way for elections of a new set of office bearers. Well, national and regional elections follow generally the same principle. So you have to dissolve the parliament to go to national elections to elect a new set of parliamentarians to sit in the National Assembly. And the same thing has to be done at the level of the regional democratic councils of the country. I say that to say to you that the president has a duty to dissolve the parliament as quickly as possible. In fact, the Constitution provides that he must do so within 3 months of the election's date. But he normally, in the ordinary course of things, a president would issue a proclamation and fix an election for within a 3 months period. This president, I don't know who is advising this president and why it is that he wants to do everything differently. He has issued a proclamation fixing an election 6 months ahead. Normally it is done within 3 months. So you dissolve parliament because the Constitution says that parliament and the RDC, the National Assembly and the Regional Democratic Council, must be dissolved within 3 months of the date fixed for elections, regional and national elections. So that 3 months period is the period that is normally used to fix the election date as well as to dissolve parliament and to dissolve the RDC. But this gentleman, and I got to stop calling him president. I will not call him president anymore on the program because his presidential tenure has come to an end. Mr. Granger has chosen 6 months, 6 months to fix the elections. So he has fixed an election in October to be held in March. Normally it is done to be held in December, 3 months. But everything he does it differently. So you have a long wait now for that 3 months to come when Parliament is to be dissolved. And only Mr. Granger knows why. Because the PPP's position remains unchanged. We cannot go to Parliament. In fact, Parliament's life expired because theoretically, Parliament's life is hinged to the executive. Because it's the executive largely that sits in the Parliament along with the other persons who form the opposition. And since the government tenure has come to an end, essentially the opposition tenure has come to an end and the parliamentary tenure has come to an end. So the expectation or the hope that the PPP will go back to Parliament at some point in time to renew or to grant an extension of the life of this government, that hope is one that is grounded in a non-reality because it cannot happen. You can't revive something that is dead. The Parliament is dead. The government is dead. You can't bring them back to life. You're supposed to have done so within the time which is provided for by the Constitution. And that is the 3 months period after the passage of the no confidence motion. That 3 months process has long gone. So the patient is now dead. During that time, the patient was on a life-saving machine. And one could have extended the life of that patient with a 2/3 majority vote in the Parliament. But they have allowed the patient to die. And no one can breathe life into that which is dead. And that is the position here. So even if the PPP wishes to go back to Parliament, and I'm saying that they are not going back to Parliament, even if the PPP wishes to go back to Parliament, they cannot go back to Parliament because the life of the 11th Parliament has expired. There is no 11th Parliament. It has just come to an end, a natural end. So you have no Parliament to go to. So that's the point I am making. The President has no basis for not dissolving Parliament because Parliament is there anyhow. So I don't know. It's only based upon him that we can get answers, and the answers are not forthcoming. The other important issue, I will deal with GCOM at a little later stage, but regions 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Regions 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 have been hit by serious floods. You will recall that one of the promises that the coalition government made, a foolish promise, but I have to repeat it because they made it. They said that they will stop flooding. They said that they will stop flooding in Guyana. I don't know how they intended to achieve that objective, but that is a promise that they made to the electorate. These people were promising anything that come to mind because they were dealing with a gullible electorate, unfortunately, because the electorate obviously bought into those promises. They promised to stop flooding. And those who may be criticizing me right now, I am not the one who made the promise. They apparently wanted to play God, and they wanted to make a promise, and they made a promise that they will stop flooding. Well, obviously, that's not a promise that they can deliver on, but I just put that on the record as another breached promise, and you saw the devastating images on Facebook and in the press. The water from the Essequibo River ducked the Parika Stelling. Water was all the way up at Parika Market, flooding all the vendors on the banks of the rivers. The Essequibo River and the Demerara River overflowed tremendously. In Berbice, it was even worse. West Coast Berbice, thousands of acres of rice lands are still under salt water as I speak. Thousands of acres. And there is no help that this government is going to give. You can recall when the PPP was in government, when the flood hits the lands, every single PPP minister was out there in the water. Every single PPP minister. Whether you talk about the 2005 floods or you talk about floods before that, every PPP minister, every PPP leader, every PPP MP used to be in those flood waters with the people, with the farmers. We used to have all kind of outreaches and all kind of assistance being rendered, whether we deliver goods, whether we deliver groceries, whether we deliver food, hot meals, whether we deliver assistance to the farmers in other endeavors. We were there with the people in the water. Which government minister have you seen in over the past 2 or 3 days in water? And that's the difference between the two governments. That is the difference between the two political parties. The PPP ministers would have been there with their pants rolled up above their knees or their skirts tucked in above their knees, but they would have been in the water. PPP leaders would have been in the water. Even if they were not offering assistance, they would have been in the water with the people. And that, my friend, is the difference. Not a single minister I have seen reported anywhere in the newspapers. Not a single minister being photographed with the people of this country. And they're not PPP supporters who are being affected by this flood. It's Guyanese of all races, all political persuasions. So even if the ministers are not visiting PPP communities or PPP support communities, though they have a duty to do so, because all Guyanese are entitled to government assistance, they are not even visiting their own support communities, their own villages on the west coast of Berbice that support them. They're not there with the farmers. The leader of the opposition was there with a team over the weekend, and all the images are there for you to see. And the farmers said very clearly that it will take them 3 years before they are able to go back on the land. 3 years. So imagine with all the problems that the farmers have, now they are flooded out with salt water that will require 3 years before the farmers can able to go back to the land. What they will do in 3 years is anybody's guess. So it is more suffering, more punishment, more chaos, more poverty, more loss of jobs, more joblessness, more hopelessness. That is what this means. And you will not hear a single initiative. You will not hear a single initiative coming from the government. And the regional chairman of Region 5 said that he informed the RDC and the ministry. This is Region 5, regional chairman Vic Chand informed the RDC at a meeting and the ministries that the sea defense is rapidly deteriorating in Region 5 and requires remedial works. He said that to them 1 year ago, and they ignored him. Today, they are reaping the burden of that neglect. Because all that is happening in this region is that the councillors, the APNU councillors, they spend more time obstructing the meetings and breaking up the meetings rather than deliver services to the people of the region. They are not concerned about that. They are more concerned with fighting political battles with the chairman of the RDC. And who are suffering as a result of this? The people of the region. All the people of the region, including supporters of the government, including supporters of APNU, of the PNC. Well, I don't think the AFC has any supporters anymore, other than that crazy guy from Region 5. I can't remember his name. He's the only person, Abel Sitaraman, I think that's his name. He must be the only AFC person left now in Region 5. But this is the state of the region. And significantly, you may have seen on my Facebook page that I met with rice farmers sometime last week Tuesday actually, and that was the reason why I couldn't make the television program, because I went to see the rice farmers and I met with them, and they informed me that 300 of them were going to be taken to court by the MMA for non-payment of an increase in rents and drainage fees. And I explained to them that MMADA cannot unilaterally increase their drainage fees and their rents for their lands. There is a process in law, and I am not going to say what it is. They must go and do their homework. There is a process in law that allows you to raise these rates and raise these fees. And you have to comply with the law. If you do not comply with the law, then we are going to challenge it in the court. They did it to the rice farmers and cash crop farmers at Hope Estate on the east coast of Demerara. And I challenged all of them. They took the farmers to the court, and I appeared at the Cove and John Magistrates Court and represented those farmers, and I got all those cases dismissed because they are not following the law. They don't know what to do. That is the kind of incompetence that I speak about. And at the meeting in Region 5, a person from the MMA was present, and I allowed him to take notes. And what I said to the farmers is that when we challenge the MMA in court, not only will we challenge them for the increase, but we are going to sue them for all of the illegal increases that they have received payments of. Because many of the farmers, though we advise them not to pay the increase, hundreds of farmers pay the increase in drainage fees and in rents. And those monies are recoverable. They run into millions of dollars. And if the MMA only decide to go against the other farmers, I am going to sue them for all those monies that they have received unlawfully. And MMA will be bankrupt because they already have serious financial problems. So I said all of that at the meeting, and apparently the MMA decided that they will not proceed to take the farmers to court. They decided against taking the farmers to court. So we won the case even outside of the court. We won the case for the rice farmers without going to court because MMA took notes at the meeting, and I believe they recognize that they will not only lose the cases that they will file, but they will lose the cases that we will file, and they will have to pay us millions of dollars that they unlawfully took in as drainage, increase in drainage fees and rents. So at least we got that issue resolved. I now want to spend some time dealing with GCOM. Now, You would have read in the newspapers that last Tuesday, that is Tuesday the 24th of September, GCOM made a decision that 35 days will be used for claims and objections. 35 days. That decision was made Tuesday the 24th. I want you to listen to me carefully. They said that 28 days would be for claims and 7 days would be for objections. So that constituted 35 days. That decision was a decision made by GCOM on the 24th. That is Tuesday. Lo and behold, Friday, that's Friday of that week, that would be the 27th of September 2019, that's Friday, a statement, an order was made public under the hand of the chairperson. And the orders said a number of things, but I want to deal with two things. This order said that the claims and objections will run for 49 days. Now, Tuesday, the decision was made by GCOM that it will be 35 days. This order comes out and it says 49 days. The order also says that all persons are to visit the registration office in his or her registration area to verify his or her registration record for inclusion on the list of electors. So every single Guyanese must go to the place, some registration center, the whole country whose name is on the list must go to verify that their names are on the list, or else their names will not be included in the OLE. Now, those two things appear in the order. So, that very Friday, the PVP commissioners drew it to the attention of the chairperson that, look, 49 days is wrong. It is supposed to be 35 days for claims and objections. And this thing about every person must turn up to verify his or her registration is completely unrequired by law. It's ultra vires the law, and it would cause mass confusion. Do you know what it will take for every single Guyanese to turn up at a registration center? This process will never end. And in any event, and most importantly, it is not required by the law. And this was pointed out. The real reason was to circumvent the Chief Justice's ruling. But even that they didn't think out, because the Chief Justice said that you can't remove the person's names on the list anyhow. So what are you verifying for? What is the reason for asking people to go and verify their registration? Suppose I fail to turn up to verify. What will someone do? Don't include my list, my name on the list of electors? That would be illegal. So whoever came up with this scam did not think it out, because it made no sense. Requiring people to turn up to verify their existence on the list, the PLE. Because whoever name is on that list cannot be removed. So we objected to the 49 days and to this part of the order that requires persons to go and verify their registration record. And the chairperson told us that she will rectify. First of all, the chairperson admitted that it was a mistake and that it will be rectified. Lo and behold, Monday, an amended statement comes out, an amended order comes out, which deleted the part that required registrants to go to the registered office to verify their registration. That part of the order was deleted as promised, but the 49 days was not changed to 35 days for claims and objections. It was changed to a new figure, 42 days now. So this, nobody knows. GCOM decided that it was 35, then 49 days appears in the order. When that was objected to, that the chairman said that it will be changed, and it was changed, but a new number appear now, 42 days for claims and objections instead of 35 days. So today, Tuesday, the PVP commissioners again question, how did we arrive at 42 days? Because that was not provided for, that was not decided anywhere. Then they are told that Mr. Keith Lowenfield, the chief elections officer, unilaterally changed the 49 to 42. So the GCOM commission agreed to 35, and Lowenfield changed it first to 49, then changes it to 42. And when that complaint is lodged with the chairman by the PVP commission, the chairman votes. They call a vote, and the chairman votes in support of Lowenfield. So the thing now is 42 days. So the commission seemed to be driven by what Lowenfield determines. And Lowenfield makes decisions that are contradictory of the commission. Lowenfield is a power unto himself. Lowenfield makes decision by himself, independent and different from the commission. And now, based upon this last decision, he manages to get the chairman of the commission now and all the government commissioners to vote with him. So they vote and they increase the days from 35 to 42. And that now, apparently, is the new period for claims and objection based upon Lowenfield's unilateral alteration of the decision of GCOM. Now that must be found, that must be frowned upon. A CEO unilaterally altering and amending decisions that the commission makes. The commission is the dog and Lowenfield is the tail. The dog wags the tail, not the tail must wag the dog. So I don't know what is going on at GCOM. And the chairman seemed to be going merrily along with what Lowenfield and the government commissioners say. So this decision now, claims and objections, have gone from 35 days to 42 days because Lowenfield has decided that that is the new period, unilaterally. And the chairman votes with the government commissioners in support of that. So a statement will be issued by the party on this issue tomorrow. The other matter that I want to draw to your attention is that based upon the information that we have received, Mr. Lowenfield does not want to accept international assistance at GCOM. Now, international assistance of whatever kind can only help to make the electoral process transparent and accountable. It can only add integrity and public confidence to the electoral machinery. So why would Lowenfield want to object to international presence and international assistance and international oversight? Clearly because he wants to do wickedness at GCOM and he wants to contaminate and pervert the electoral machinery. You have seen statements from the international community, the diplomatic community, Commonwealth Secretary General, and international organizations offering assistance to GCOM for the upcoming elections. Any credible GCOM, any credible elections commission, any person who would want the process of the electoral process to be above board and to be able to deliver elections effectively would welcome whatever help is offered. Because God knows we need help in this country, more particularly when it comes to elections in Guyana. And here it is, the international community is offering assistance to GCOM, and our information is that the CEO is unwilling to accept this international assistance and international oversight and scrutiny, and for no sensible reason. And our position is that every offer of help must be accepted. And if the government is not afraid, and the government, according to the president, Mr. Granger, he wants credible elections. Well, one way of delivering credible elections is to ensure that there is foreign scrutiny, that there is foreign observance, that there is foreign assistance, that there is international oversight. All of that will lend to the credibility and the integrity of the process. So which sensible person would object to that? Which honest person would object to that? The only person who would object to that is a person who wants skullduggery to take place, or who is facilitating or doing skullduggery him or herself with the electoral process. So we will continue to clamor for international assistance to be accepted by GCOM. And the CEO, the GCOM must take charge. That's a policy decision. That's not a matter for the CEO. Whether GCOM should accept international help and international scrutiny and international assistance is a policy decision that must be made by the Commission and not the CEO and the Secretariat. Because they themselves don't want to be subject to scrutiny. The international help will come right there in the Secretariat, but the Secretariat does not want the international help to be there because it might expose the wickedness that they plan to do or they have started doing already. So I thought that I will update you on what is taking place at GCOM. And you will note, I saw today's Times newspaper, the front page says that over 600,000 persons on the PLE, over 600,000 persons on the PLE. Recall that Mr. Granger and the government objected to the voters list on the ground that it was bloated by some 200 or 240,000. That is what Mr. Granger was quoted in the newspaper as saying. Lowenfield, of course, has denied that. And they were saying that the list was bloated when it was just over 500,000. Well, the house-to-house data has not yet been merged into the system, and it is now at 600,000. 600,000. So if it was bloated at 500,000, what will you say when it has now reached 600,000 and the house-to-house data has not been put into the system as far as we are aware? So there are a lot of things that are happening at GCOM that needs explanation and that requires scrutiny. But you're not hearing explanation from the persons in GCOM. You're not hearing explanations. In fact, the explanations that you are hearing are explanations that raises more issues and raises more questions than providing answers. So that is where we are in terms of GCOM, and I must speak a little on the crime situation. The crime situation continues to be a major focus or a major source of worry in this country. Violent crimes continue to be committed with impunity right across the length and breadth of this country. Every single day you open the newspapers and there is some violent robbery, murder, or infliction of some violence on the person of another. Today, the headline in the Times newspaper, bandits shoot Essequibo Coast businesswoman during robbery. Another robbery in Essequibo this time. And there's another shooting. The bandits shoot the Essequibo woman. And there is not a single word from the government on these crimes. There is not a new policy from the government in relation to crime. The minister has stopped speaking completely on crime and the crime situation in the country. Not a single new initiative is being pursued. It is as if, we have no crime in the country. At least during the PVP time, while we were in government, you used to hear of initiatives, operation something, some kind of policy, some kind of drug master plan, some kind of some policy, some kind of reform was taking place. At least you could have seen that there were attempts to do something about the situation. But here the criminals continue to plunder the people of Guyana, and there is no response from the government, no new policy from the government, no new initiative from the minister, and life goes on merrily. The other thing I want to talk about is, as all of you are aware, today begins the claims and objections period. Now, it is during this period that all of the persons who would have come of age for the first time, they must now go and register. Now is your opportunity to go and register. And please make sure that you do that. All of you who have never been registered for whatever reason, now is the time to go and be registered. All of you who need transaction changes of your address, changes to your name, changes to any particular, your ID card or your anything, now is the time to go and do it. You have 35 days. 35 days. And please work along with our activists. The PLE is published, and would be found at conspicuous places in your villages, right across the length and breadth of this country. If you have any objection, if you have a claim, meaning that if you claim to be a new registrant, now is the time to go and make that claim or prosecute that claim. Go and get yourself on the list. If you have some other thing that you want to change, now is it. And if you want to object any name that you see on the list that should not be on the list, now is the time to raise that objection. All of you who are seeing Haitians in the country and are telling people about Haitians being registered, well, now is the time to find those people. If they are registered unlawfully, now is the time. So we have scrutineers, we have workers, we have activists right across the length and breadth of this country, and there will be one in your community. Please work along with those activists during this period, because this is the most important aspect. If you are not on the list, then you cannot vote. It makes no sense you complain about the government, complain against the government, criticize the government, curse the government, and you don't vote. This is your opportunity. So this is the most crucial part of the electoral process. Remember, we had asked you to boycott the house-to-house registration exercise. And we were saying that a claims and objection period will come, under which you will get your opportunity to do your transaction. Whether it's a new registration, whether it's a transaction change, now is the time. We have activists in the fields. Now is the time. If you don't do it now, then you will not be able to vote. The phone lines have been going, and I will now invite calls. So please, caller, you're on the air.
Hello?
Hi.
Hello, Mr. Nandlall.
Yes?
This man, Ramjatan, concerned about what kind of crime in this country. 17 inmates dead, born and dead in jail, and the whole jail burned down. And now he applied for Prime Minister work.
Well,
He
yeah.
fight for nothing. He fighting for Prime Minister work. Yeah? Hello?
Yes, I'm hearing you. Go ahead.
Mr. Nandlall.
Go ahead.
This man I look after crime in this country. 17 inmates dead in Georgetown.
I'm hearing you, yes.
No, he want Prime Minister work now.
Well, he's looking for a promotion.
That position I'm look for, and I look for nobody in this country. And then come in and fool people. One say, he take away all them school picnic money. You come now for tell them school picnic, me go get all money, I go turn it more, I go get more better education. I go get better education. When you take away $10,000 for them picnic. So the oil money go give them now food. They go get more education.
All right, caller. Thank you.
Get more money for oil money for get more education when you take away the money from 10,000. So me don't know who them people is really a fool. And the jackass them in this country take fooling.
All right, caller. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So that caller is saying that Comrade Ramjatan has not been doing a good job. He's been neglecting his portfolio, not fighting crime, not combating crime, not being aggressive enough, but he wants to now vie for the prime ministerial position of the country. In other words, he wants a promotion. Well, the people will determine whether that will happen or not. Caller, you're on the air.
Hello?
Yes?
This is Anil Nandlall.
Speaking.
I want to make one thing here now. Tell me something like people who not in Guyana, they're America. How them are put in Guyana?
All right, good question. A person can only vote if that person is on the list and that person turns up to vote in Guyana. Two requirements. You have to be registered, and you can only be registered if you're a citizen, and you have to turn up to vote. We do not have overseas voting anymore. We have proxy voting, but within the state of Guyana, and you get to vote by way of proxy in limited circumstances, which are not relevant for the purpose of this discourse. So those who want to vote and who are overseas, they will have to return to Guyana for the elections. Caller, you're on the air.
Hello?
Yes, caller.
Good night, Anil.
Good night.
I just want one clarification, man. After the election, hello?
Yes, I'm hearing you. You go ahead.
Yes. After elections, no party get a 51%. What happens after that? Thank you.
Thank you. The caller is asking, if no one gets 51%, what will happen? Well, the Constitution is very clear. The party that gets the most votes, the presidential candidate of that list, will become the president. And that party will be invited to form the government. But it will not be a majority government. It will be a minority government, like the one that we had in 2011 to 2015. So that is a short answer. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, how are you?
Hello.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm calling from New York. All right, my contribution is every like guy is all there. Next year, maybe Sunday, next year, it's all there. I know the day has to be stretched to the limit. Please, all right, guys, please go out there and vote and at the us.
All right, caller, thank you. That call was very muffled. I didn't get I didn't get to understand. Sorry, caller. I didn't understand what you said. Please speak clearly into the phone. Caller, you're on the air.
Well, who am I speaking to?
The person whom you called. Who did you call? If you are calling the number, look at the number that you're dialing, that's the person that you're calling. Caller, you're on the air.
Good night.
Good night.
This is Mr. Nandlall.
Yes, sir.
Here, that could be asked. No one tell us something about Ramjatan.
I wouldn't cut you off unless you speak and violate the law.
No.
So go ahead. Go ahead quickly.
I tried to Prime Minister candidate, right?
Yes.
He was taking but father. He was party yesterday.
His what?
His father was principal at Tagore High School
His father was the principal of Tagore High School. Yes, I am aware of that.
at one time. And I get to understand he was ticketed to remove from the school because he was indulging with a children in the office and to rape.
All right. Look, I know, look, caller. I know that there was some allegation of some of a sexual nature between him and some student. I am aware of that. Beyond that, I don't know. And that's not look. That is not important, caller. Let's deal with the issues at hand. All right. I don't like. I want this.
He are trying to rape the country now.
Well, all right, caller. Thank you. Now, callers, please, let us discuss issues. What Ramjatan father did and people's personal and family things, I don't encourage that. I'm not on this platform to deal with those kinds of issues. I want to deal with issues that are meritorious and that are of public concern and that are worthy of discussion and that are relevant to the, to these activities. Caller, you're on the air.
Yes, Anil, I'm calling back. I said, yeah, I heard you said just now my call came through very muffled.
Yes, yes, I'm so sorry about that. Thank you for calling back.
Okay, my contribution was I was being with every right-minded guy. I need to go out there, make sure your name on the list, and make sure you vote strongly for the PPPC. They're the only party to be guiding forward. Again, I'm going to reiterate, they're the only party to be guiding forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, caller. That was a very clear message. The caller is saying, go out there, get your name on the list, do what is required, and on elections, they vote solidly for the PPP because it's the only party that can take the country forward. So that's a very clear message. Caller, you're on the air.
I got that. Anil.
Yes, sir.
Hey, man. What I want to tell about this, the free education, right?
Uh-huh.
Look at what you do.
Hello? We lost that caller. There is some mix-up. I don't know what happened there. Caller, you're on the air.
Hello, can I speak to Mr. Nandlall?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, hello, I'm on to Mr. Nandlall.
Yes, yes, I'm hearing you clearly.
Yeah, but Mr. Nandlall,
Aha.
I would like to ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
I'm asking if GCOM is doing if GCOM Mr. Nala,
Go ahead, go ahead.
yeah. With- If GCOM is doing what they want to do there, we have a horse to climb here.
We have what?
We have a horse to climb with GCOM here. If GCOM is saying from 49 to 42 now, there's this nonsense is going on. What kind of schema we have in here?
All right, caller, thank you. Yes, of course, we have challenges with GCOM, and we have been highlighting them, and we have to continue to do so, and nothing is coming easy, callers. You have to understand that. It is going to, I said, once the PNC ever is in government, it is a struggle to get them out. They are not going to play fairly. They're going to use everything in the book. They're going to use every trick. They're going to use every fraud. They're going to use every manipulation available. So yes, we have challenges at GCOM, and we have to continue to fight. We can't give up. All right? So we'll take one last call. Sorry, we lost that caller. One last call before I go. Caller, you are on the air. Sorry, I missed that caller. This is where I have to say goodbye. My operator is signaling to me that we have come to program time, and I want to thank you very much for being with me over the past hour or so. And we have had a fruitful discussion. We have highlighted many important issues, and please continue to join me as we continue to discuss important events taking place in our country. Next week, I will not be on air as I will be out of the jurisdiction. I'll be out of Guyana, and I want to apologize up front for not being here next week, but I will return, I think, the following week, and we will continue our important discussions. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the evening and indeed the rest of this week. Take care. Thank you.